Hey guys, tonight we are going to a very different kind of world. We are journeying back to 10th century Japan, to the Imperial court at Heian, modern-day Kyoto. This was a unique time and place in history, a world of almost unbelievable peace, elegance, and refinement. But beneath the beautiful surface of silk robes and cherry blossoms was a society governed by a secret, unspoken, and incredibly strict code of etiquette, where your entire social standing could be ruined not by a sword, but by a clumsy gesture or a poorly chosen word in a poem. Frankly, it's a world where a mismatched accessory could get you socially canceled for an entire season. It makes modern social media anxiety look positively relaxing. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always a huge encouragement. For those of you already settled in, I'd love to see where and when you're listening from. Go ahead and drop your city and local time in the comments. I'm recording this very early on a Thursday morning, just before 5 a.m., here in Cheney, Kansas. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The gentle whir of the fan fades, replaced by the slow, rhythmic, and slightly bumpy creaking of wooden wheels. You are inside an ox cart, a geisha. This is the luxury vehicle of your time. A small enclosed wooden carriage, its windows covered by delicate bamboo blinds and silk curtains to shield you from the view of the outside world. For days, this slow swaying motion has been your entire reality. Your name is Akiko. You are 18 years old, the daughter of a respectable provincial governor, and you are on your way to the capital for the first time. Your family has secured you a position as a lady-in-waiting to a high-ranking imperial consort, an incredible honor, but one that fills you with a deep and quiet anxiety. The Heian period, from the late 8th to the late 12th century, was a remarkable era of peace in Japan, a time when the court aristocracy turned away from military matters and focused instead on the pursuit of culture and aesthetic beauty. This refined court life is most famously documented in the world's first novel, The Tale of Genji, written by a court lady just like the one you hope to become. You cautiously lift the corner of a silk curtain to peek outside. For days you have seen nothing but countryside. But now you see the signs of the great capital city, Heian. You see the elegant, curved, tiled roofs of large estates rising above high plaster walls. You pass other, more impressive ox carts, and you can hear the distant, resonant toll of a great temple bell. The ox cart is the perfect symbol for your life as a noblewoman. It is slow, elegant, and most importantly, it keeps you hidden. For a lady of your rank, to be seen directly by a commoner, or even by a man of the court, would be a source of deep shame and embarrassment. Your entire life will be a kind of performance from behind a screen. You are to be known not for your face, but for the elegance of your poetry, the beauty of your handwriting, the impeccable taste of the single brocaded sleeve you might artfully allow to hang from the window of your carriage. It is the ultimate personal branding challenge. Historians debate the actual level of freedom and influence these Heian court women possessed. Were they, as their confinement behind screens suggests, powerless pawns in the marriage politics of their powerful clans? Or did their complete mastery of literature, art, and the complex rules of social etiquette grant them a unique and powerful form of soft power? As the incredible number of surviving diaries, poems, and novels written by these women would seem to suggest, your heart flutters with a mixture of excitement and dread. You have spent the last year of your life in preparation for this moment. You have practiced your calligraphy until your fingers ached. You have memorized hundreds of classic poems. You have studied the complex rules of color combinations for the layered silk robes you must wear. But you are from the provinces. Will your taste be seen as rustic? Will your handwriting seem clumsy? Will your poetic allusions be clever enough? Your family's honor and your own future depends on your ability to navigate this beautiful, treacherous world. You feel as if you are about to take the most difficult exam in the world, an exam where all the questions are unwritten, and a single wrong answer will lead to you being the subject of amused gossip for the next 10 years. The ox cart slows, and you hear the voices of the palace guards. The creaking of the wheels stops. You have arrived. A servant from outside your carriage respectfully lowers the silk curtain. You take a deep breath, steadying your nerves. It is time to take your first step into the Imperial Palace. The silk curtain of your carriage lifts, and for a moment, the bright morning light is blinding. As your eyes adjust, you take in your first breathtaking glimpse of the Imperial Palace compound, the dairy. It is nothing like you imagined. There are no great stone walls, no imposing towers. Instead, you see a sprawling, serene world of quiet, understated elegance. Before you is a vast courtyard of raked white gravel, so large and so perfectly flat that it seems like a pale, frozen lake. Dotted around it are long, low, symmetrical wooden pavilions, their unpainted cypress wood glowing with a soft, golden warmth in the morning sun. The roofs are magnificent, great swooping structures made from layers upon layers of cypress bark, their elegant curves seeming to float against the blue sky. The buildings are all connected to one another by covered wooden walkways and arched bridges that cross over tranquil ponds and gardens. The entire aesthetic is one of clean lines, natural materials, and a profound sense of peace. The architecture of the Heian period, known as Shindan-zukuri, was designed to be in harmony with nature. The main halls of the palaces were built to face south, overlooking a large garden or a pond, and the walls were not solid, but were often made of light, removable paper screens and lattices, blurring the boundary between the interior and the exterior world. A senior court lady, a woman whose name you do not yet know, has been sent to greet you. She is dressed in layers of immaculate silk, and her every movement is a study in perfect practiced grace. She does not smile warmly. Her expression is one of neutral, polite assessment. You feel as if you are being graded on the way you step down from the ox cart. You try to move with the same gliding, elegant steps as your guide. You feel less like a court lady and more like a nervous duck trying to look sophisticated. You focus on not tripping over the hem of your own robe. She leads you along one of the long, covered walkways. Your soft-soled shoes make no sound on the polished wooden floors, which are said to be so smooth that they sing like a nightingale as you walk. The only sound is the gentle crunch of your guide's steps on the white gravel as you cross from one pavilion to another. These vast gravel courtyards were not just for decoration. They reflected precious light into the dim interiors of the buildings, and they also served as an elegant security system. It was impossible for anyone to approach a building without their footsteps announcing their presence. A very useful feature, unless the person approaching is a very, very quiet ninja who has learned how to walk on gravel without making a sound, which is probably a legitimate concern. As you walk, you get glimpses into the rooms, and you are struck by what is not there. There is no heavy furniture. There are no cluttered tables, no shelves of objects. The rooms are vast, airy, and almost entirely empty, their beauty defined not by the things within them, but by the quality of the materials themselves, the grain of the wooden pillars, the texture of the woven tatami mats on the floor, the play of light and shadow through a painted paper screen. It's a very different kind of luxury. The ultimate status symbol here is not how much stuff you own, but how perfect and empty your room is. It's a design philosophy that would make a furniture salesman weep. Architectural historians debate the influences on this unique style. While the symmetrical layout of the palace shows clear inspiration from Tang Dynasty China, the emphasis on natural, unpainted wood, the airy, open-plan spaces, and the deep integration with the surrounding gardens are all uniquely Japanese adaptations, a move towards a more subtle and natural aesthetic. Every pillar, every screen, every perfectly framed view of a single gnarled pine tree in a garden seems to be a quiet testament to a level of taste so profound you have only ever read about it in poems. You feel your provincial background keenly. You clutch the small, perfumed fan in your hand, your knuckles white. Finally, your guide stops before a set of rooms in a quieter part of the palace complex. This pavilion is partitioned not by solid walls, but by heavy curtains of state and beautifully painted folding screens. From behind them, you can hear the faint sound of women's voices, a soft rustle of silk, and the distant, lonely note of a single koto being plucked. Your guide announces your arrival. You have reached the apartments of the imperial consort you are to serve. You are about to enter the hidden, competitive, and almost entirely female world that is to be your new home. Your guide slides back a heavy, painted paper screen, and you step inside. The bright, direct light of the courtyard is gone, replaced by a deep, cool, and fragrant dimness. If the outside world of the palace was one of quiet emptiness, this world is one of quiet fullness. This is the women's world, and it is a world of layers, both literal and metaphorical. The space is a large, open room with polished wooden floors, but it has been artfully divided into smaller, more intimate enclosures by a forest of beautiful screens. There are ornate, multi-paneled folding screens or byobu, painted with scenes of nature, a lonely mountain in winter, a flight of geese over a river. And there are portable curtains of state or kicho, which are heavy drapes of patterned silk hanging from lacquered wooden frames. These create small, semi-private alcoves where the noble women of the court spend their days. You do not see people. Not clearly. Your first impression is of rustling silk, of shadows moving behind the paper screens, of the scent of a dozen different blended incenses hanging in the air. You hear a soft laugh from one curtained enclosure, a quiet whisper from another. It is a world of suggestion, not of direct interaction. For a Heian noblewoman, her entire existence was lived from behind a screen. Unrelated men were almost never permitted to see her face. This seclusion was the very foundation of her virtue and her reputation. It is like living inside a beautiful multi-layered fabric box. It is very elegant, but it must be quite difficult to know if you are talking to the right person, or just to a very well-dressed screen. Your guide leads you towards one of these curtained enclosures, this one made of a particularly fine, deep purple silk. She kneels, announces your arrival in a soft, formal voice, and a moment later, a quiet voice from within bids you enter. You drop to your knees, your heart pounding, and bow your head to the floor, not daring to look up. The voice belongs to Lady Chigusa, the senior lady-in-waiting to the imperial consort. She is to be your mentor, your guide, and your most feared critic. She asks you a few simple questions about your journey, about your family. But you know these are not simple questions. She is assessing you. She is listening to your accent for any hint of provincial coarseness. She is judging your choice of words, your posture, the very way you breathe. Her voice is melodious and refined, but it has an edge of cool, sharp steel. Finally, she bids you to look up. You raise your head, but you still cannot see her clearly. She sits behind her own personal screen, a silhouette against the light. All you can truly see are the magnificent layers of her robes at her sleeve and hem, a cascade of perfectly chosen colors. You also notice that her face, in the dim light, is a perfect, smooth, opaque white. This is due to the heavy rice powder, or ashuroi, that all noble women and men applied. A natural complexion was considered unrefined. This, combined with the practice of blackening the teeth, created a serene, mask-like beauty that concealed all personal emotion. It must make it very hard to tell if someone is blushing from embarrassment or if they just need to reapply their makeup. It is a very good face for playing poker, if poker had been invented yet. Historians debate the psychological effects of this secluded, screen-bound existence. Did it, as the great literary works of the era suggest, lead to a culture of intense introspection, heightened sensitivity, and incredible creativity? Or was it a source of depression, frustration, and intense, petty rivalries born of profound boredom and confinement? The answer is likely both, varying greatly from one woman to the next. Lady Chigusa seems satisfied with your initial interview for now. She dismisses you, and your guide shows you to the small space that will be your own. It is not a room. It is simply a designated area of the main floor, a few woven tatami mats, which will be partitioned off by your own folding screen and curtain of state. This small, portable fabric enclosure is to be your entire personal world. Your new apartment is very minimalist. It consists of a floor and a curtain. On the bright side, it will be very easy to keep clean, and the commute to work is excellent, as your workspace is approximately 3 feet away from your sleeping space. You are left alone for the first time. You sit on your mat, hidden behind your screen, and the reality of your new life begins to sink in. You are a tiny new gear in a vast, complex, and delicate social machine. The weight of it all feels immense. Before she left, Lady Chigusa informed you that your first official duty will be tomorrow morning. You are to assist the other ladies in the formal dressing of the Imperial consort, and your mind begins to race with the first terrifying challenge of your new career, the language of the layered robes. The next morning, you are woken long before dawn by the soft footsteps and whispered words of a palace attendant. The anxiety from the night before returns instantly, a cold knot in your stomach. Today is the day of your first official duty, your first real test. You are to assist in the formal dressing of the Imperial consort. You are led to her private chambers. The consort, your mistress, is already seated in the center of the room on a raised tatami platform. She is a silent, serene figure, her long, beautiful black hair, longer than she is tall, spread out behind her like a silken fan. A dozen other ladies in waiting, all older and more experienced than you, are bustling about the room, their silk robes making a soft, constant rustling sound. They are laying out the garments for the day. You are about to witness the ritual of the Junahaito, the 12-layer robe, the most formal and complex garment in the Heian court. It is not always literally 12 layers, but today, for a special occasion, it will be. It is a series of unlined silk robes or haito, each one cut slightly smaller than the one beneath it. When worn all together, this creates a stunning cascade of color at the collar, the hem, and especially at the edges of the wide flowing sleeves. The entire ensemble can weigh up to 20 kilograms or 44 pounds. It is not a practical garment. It is a living, wearable work of art, a statement of taste and status. The choice of colors is the most important decision of the day, a complex language that every person at court knows how to read. The combinations are not random. They are dictated by a strict set of rules based on the season, the specific month, the occasion, and the wearer's rank. Lady Chigusa, the senior lady-in-waiting, is overseeing the selection. Her face is a mask of intense concentration. She explains, in a voice meant for all the junior ladies to hear, that since it is now late spring, the colors must reflect the season. She speaks the poetic names of the approved color combinations. For today, she has chosen a scheme known as Murasaki no Yusuyuki, or light snow on the violets. It is a breathtakingly beautiful and subtle combination of layered robes in shades of white, light violet, and a deep, rich purple. Choosing an outfit for the day is not a simple matter here. It is a complex aesthetic and political calculation. If you were to choose the wrong shade of green for a festival in May, you could become the subject of whispered ridicule for weeks. The pressure is immense. It makes modern fashion anxiety seem quite trivial. The dressing process is a slow and solemn ritual. The consort remains perfectly still, a beautiful doll at the center of the room. The ladies-in-waiting bring each layer to her, one by one, and skillfully drape it over her, their movements synchronized and precise. Your job, as the newest and most junior lady, is a simple one. You are tasked with holding a particular sleeve, ensuring its layers are perfectly aligned, or with smoothing a crease at the hem. You perform your task with trembling hands, terrified of making a mistake. The voluminous sleeves of the robes are not just for show. You have learned that they function as elegant, built-in pockets, a place where a lady might discreetly carry her painted fan, a few sheets of folded paper for writing a poem, or even a small rice cake for when she gets hungry during a particularly long and boring court ceremony. Textile historians still debate the exact number of layers that were commonly worn. While the name of the garment implies 12, Evidence from diaries and literary works of the period suggests that for more everyday wear at court, a smaller number of layers, perhaps 5 to 8, was more common. The full 12 layers were likely reserved for the most important state ceremonies. Finally, the last layer, a magnificent outer robe of patterned Chinese brocade, is placed over the consort. The dressing is complete. She is a magnificent static sculpture of silk. Her movement is now severely restricted by the weight and bulk of her clothes. She is an object of remote, untouchable, and almost abstract beauty. She looks magnificent. She also looks like she would have considerable difficulty walking through a narrow doorway or getting up from her seat without a team of assistants. It is the price one pays for being a walking masterpiece of seasonal color theory. You feel a wave of relief. You have gotten through your first duty without making a noticeable mistake. As you stand back to admire the beautiful cascade of colors, you notice Lady Chigusa's eyes are no longer on the consort. Her cool, appraising gaze has fallen upon you, and upon the simple 5-layered robes you so carefully chose for yourself this morning. Her expression is unreadable, but you feel a sudden cold dread creep up your spine. Lady Chigusa's gaze rests on you for a moment that stretches into an eternity. You feel your face grow hot beneath your thick white rice powder makeup. Then she speaks. Her voice is no louder than a whisper, but it seems to echo in the silent room. An interesting choice for a spring morning, Lady Akiko, she says. It is not a compliment. Her eyes flick down for a single, brief moment to the sleeve of your own robe, where the 5 layers of silk you so carefully chose this morning are visible. You had chosen a combination you thought was beautiful, a layering of deep green, light green, and white, a combination known as willow. Lady Chigusa turns her attention back to the consort, but the damage is done. A few moments later, as she is instructing another lady-in-waiting, she adds, her voice still quiet but now carrying a distinctly instructional tone for all to hear. Of course, the true connoisseur knows that the willow combination, with its particular shade of vibrant green, is not usually displayed until the willow leaves along the Como River have fully unfurled. At this early stage of spring, while the plum blossoms are still at their peak, a plum blossom combination would have been more seasonally aware. And with that one gentle, devastating sentence, she has completely destroyed you. You have committed a major fashion crime, the equivalent of wearing a heavy wool coat to a summer party, but 1,000 times more serious and 1,000,000 times more subtle. Your beautiful, carefully chosen robes, which you thought made you look so sophisticated, now feel like a coarse costume of pure provincial ignorance. You wish you could become invisible, that the polished floorboards would open up and swallow you whole. The other ladies-in-waiting, of course, say nothing. They do not stare at you. They do not whisper. They do something far worse. They politely and pointedly avert their gazes, pretending not to have heard, pretending not to notice your existence. Their sudden intense interest in a loose thread on the silk curtain is a more damning judgment than any open laughter could ever be. This is how social discipline is maintained in the Heian court. Not with loud reprimands, but with a quiet, elegant, and utterly ruthless social chill. This extreme sensitivity to the nuances of color and season is the absolute heart of Heian courtly life. Every educated person was expected to have a perfect, intuitive grasp of this complex aesthetic code. The great writers of your era, ladies like Murasaki Shikibu and Sei Shanagon, fill their diaries and novels with detailed descriptions of these layered colors, judging the people they meet on the taste and appropriateness of their attire. And it was not just the color of your clothes you had to worry about. Court life was also governed by a complex system of spiritual and astrological taboos, particularly the monoyami and directional taboos. On any given day, it might be considered terribly unlucky to travel in a certain direction, say to the northeast. A courtier wishing to visit a friend who lived to the northeast would have to embark on a ridiculously long, indirect journey, traveling west, then south, then east, just to avoid moving in the forbidden direction. The daily planning required was staggering. It's a wonder anyone ever managed to leave the house at all. For the rest of the day, you feel the subtle consequences of your mistake. Conversations seem to stop when you approach a group of ladies. An invitation to join a game of Go is politely not extended to you. You have been quietly and efficiently placed on the social blacklist. That night, alone behind your own screen of state, you lie awake on your mat, replaying Lady Chigusa's words in your mind 1,000 times. The burning shame is still fresh. You realize that in coming to the capital, you have entered a world where taste is not a matter of personal preference. It is a strict and unforgiving science. It is a language, and you have just proven yourself to be a clumsy, illiterate beginner. You fall asleep planning your outfit for tomorrow with the intensity of a general planning a great military campaign. The colors will be correct. The specific shades will be correct. It will be the most seasonally appropriate, poetically resonant, and unimpeachably tasteful combination of silks ever witnessed by the court. Or, at the very least, it will not be actively, offensively wrong. Right now, you are aiming for a solid and achievable acceptable. You wake the next morning with a renewed, if nervous, determination. You will not make the same mistake twice. As you are preparing for the day, an attendant enters your small space. He bows low. He is carrying a single delicate branch from a blossoming plum tree. And tied to the branch with a beautiful silk cord is a small, exquisitely folded piece of deep purple paper. Your heart stops. It is a poem. A new and even more dangerous test has just arrived. Your heart is pounding so loudly you are sure the other ladies in waiting can hear it through the paper screens. You take the plum blossom branch from the attendant with a hand that you hope is not trembling too visibly. He bows and retreats, leaving you alone with the message. The identity of the sender is not stated. That would be far too crude, too direct. The entire exchange is a delicate and mysterious game. You take a moment to simply look at the object. In the Heian court, every detail of a message is part of the message itself. The branch is a perfect one, with dark, elegant wood and a spray of pink-white blossoms just at their peak of beauty, their faint, sweet scent perfuming the air. The poem itself is written on a piece of thick, deep purple paper or murasaki, a color associated with love and the imperial family. The paper has been exquisitely folded and is tied to the branch with a silk cord in a complex and beautiful knot. You know that even the style of the knot is a form of communication. This is the reality of your new world. The most important conversations, the most intimate exchanges of feeling, are not conducted with spoken words, but through the medium of poetry. The 31-syllable waka is the language of the heart, and your fluency in it is a direct measure of your intelligence, your sensitivity, and your worth as a lady of the court. With nervous fingers, you untie the silk cord and carefully unfold the paper. You recognize the handwriting instantly. It is the elegant, masculine, and famously beautiful calligraphy of the dashing Captain Fujiwara no Tadanori, one of the most sought-after young noblemen at court. A thrill of pure, dizzying excitement shoots through you. He has noticed you. The poem itself is, of course, not a blunt declaration. It is a masterpiece of subtlety and illusion. It might say something like, "The plum blossom scent cannot hide its lovely color. Does it reach you now behind your screen, I wonder? Or is it lost on the wind?" It is the Heian equivalent of sending a clever, mysterious, and deeply flattering text message. But instead of an emoji, you attach it to a flower. And instead of being sent instantly, it is delivered by a formal attendant. And instead of being a straightforward, "Hey, what's up?" it is a 31-syllable meditation on the relationship between hidden beauty and fragrant reputation. The dating scene was a lot more work back then. Your initial thrill is immediately followed by a wave of pure, crushing terror. You must reply. To not reply would be a grave and deliberate insult, and your reply will be judged, not just by him, but by his attendants who will read it, and by your own ladies, and by anyone else who inevitably hears of the exchange. Your entire reputation could rise or fall on the quality of the 31 syllables you are about to compose. This poetic exchange was the heart of all Heian courtship. Even after a secret nighttime visit, a gentleman was socially obligated to send a morning-after poem to his lover as soon as he returned to his own quarters. The quality of this poem, the elegance of its calligraphy, the beauty of the paper, the freshness of the flower it was attached to, was intensely scrutinized by the lady and her attendants. A clumsy poem or a wilted flower was a clear and devastating sign that he was just not that into you. Literary scholars debate how much of this poetry was truly spontaneous, and how much was based on cleverly adapting or quoting famous poems from the great Imperial anthologies. The most admired poems were likely a mixture of both, demonstrating both a deep knowledge of the classics and a spark of personal creativity. It was like a rap battle, but with more flowers and feelings. You had to be original, but you also had to show you knew the classics, all within a strict 5-7-5-7-7 syllable structure. The pressure is on. You stare at Captain Tadanori's beautiful, elegant poem. The excitement of receiving it has now been completely replaced by the full, terrifying weight of the task ahead. You must now craft a reply. And every single element, the poem itself, the choice of paper, the color of the ink, the style of your handwriting, the scent you apply to the page, and the flower you attach it to must be absolutely, unimpeachably perfect. The rest of your morning and most of your afternoon is a blur of intense, silent, and deeply anxious creative work. Composing the reply to Captain Tadanori is not a task to be rushed. It is a multi-stage process where every single choice is a reflection of your taste, your intelligence, and your very soul. A clumsy reply could end this delicate correspondence before it has even truly begun. First, and most importantly, is the poem itself. It must be a direct response to his, a clever and elegant call and answer. His poem was about the scent of the plum blossom and your hidden beauty. Your reply must acknowledge his imagery, and then add a new, witty, and appropriately modest layer of meaning. You sit behind your screen, your mind racing through the hundreds of classic poems you have memorized, searching for the perfect allusion, the perfect turn of phrase. You compose a dozen different versions in your head, only to discard them as too bold or too shy, or simply not clever enough. After hours of mental labor, you finally settle on a verse you feel is worthy. Now comes the second and equally important stage, choosing the medium. You cannot simply write your poem on any piece of paper. You bring out your small lacquer box of high-quality, handmade paper or washi. The court has access to a stunning variety of papers, in every conceivable color and texture. His poem came on a deep purple paper. Your reply must be on a color that harmonizes with his. You choose a delicate, pale spring green paper, the color of a new willow leaf, to show that you have understood the subtle lesson Lady Chigusa taught you just yesterday. It is the most stressful arts and crafts project in history. Choosing the wrong shade of green could send an entirely unintended message, like, "I am not very interested in you," or even worse, "I have the aesthetic sensibility of a cabbage." The stakes are incredibly high for a single piece of paper. Third comes the calligraphy. Your handwriting is considered a direct window into your breeding and your character. You take out your writing set, a beautiful inkstone, a stick of solid pine soot ink, a small water dropper, and a fine-tipped brush. You carefully add a few drops of water to the inkstone and begin to grind the ink stick in a slow circular motion, creating the perfect lustrous black ink. You practice the characters of your poem on a scrap of paper first, your hand trembling slightly. Then, taking a deep breath, you commit your poem to the beautiful green paper, hoping your brushstrokes are as elegant and fluid as the words themselves. Fourth, you must fold it. A poem is never sent as a flat sheet. It must be folded into a specific elegant shape, often a long, narrow strip or an intricate knot. The style of the fold is yet another layer of communication, a subtle message in itself. So you have to be a poet, a painter, an expert in color theory, and an origami master, all just to say, "Yes, I'd be interested in continuing this flirtation." It's a wonder anyone ever managed to get a second date. The sheer amount of work is exhausting. Finally, the most subtle and refined touch of all. You must perfume the paper. You light a small piece of a carefully chosen incense blend, one with notes of sandalwood and clove that you feel complements the theme of the poem. You hold the folded letter carefully in the fragrant, rising smoke, allowing the scent to permeate the fibers of the paper. This, too, will be judged. Historians of material culture debate the precise composition and meaning of these incense blends. Were there specific recipes for scents that were known to convey particular emotions, like longing, joy, or respect? While the great courtly texts describe the art of blending incense in detail, the exact language of scents remains a beautiful and speculative mystery. You look at the finished product. It has taken you the better part of a day to produce 31 syllables. But every aspect of it, the poem, the paper, the calligraphy, the fold, the scent, is a perfect, harmonious whole. You feel like you've just completed a great masterpiece. You are also so mentally exhausted you might need to take a nap for a week. With a heart that is once again pounding, you summon an attendant and give her your reply to be delivered to Captain Tadanori. You have sent your message out into the world. You have shown him your mind, your taste, and your skill. Now all you can do is wait. That night you can barely sleep. You lie on your sleeping mat behind your own small screen of state, the heavy silence of the palace pressing in around you. Your mind replays every choice you made. Was the poem clever enough? Was the paper too pale? Was the scent of the incense too strong, a sign of a forward or vulgar nature? You are lost in a spiral of anxious what-ifs. The women's quarters are a world of deep quiet after the last candle has been extinguished. The only sounds are the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the other ladies in their own curtained enclosures, the distant chirp of a cricket in the garden, and the occasional soft rustle of silk as someone shifts in their sleep. The only light is the pale, ghostly moonlight that filters through the paper screens, painting the polished wooden floor with a soft, silver glow. And then through the silence a new sound reaches you. It is the sound of a flute. The music is impossibly beautiful, a slow, haunting, and deeply melancholic melody that seems to drip into the night like liquid silver. The notes are long, pure, and full of a feeling of gentle sadness. The sound is coming from the garden, just outside the veranda of your apartments. You freeze, your heart seeming to stop and then start again with a painful thud. You know with an absolute and thrilling certainty who is playing. It is Captain Tadanori. He has received your poem. And this is his answer. In the Heian court, where direct communication was all but forbidden, music was one of the essential languages of love. An accomplished courtier was expected to be a master of an instrument, most often the flute or the koto, a type of zither. A nocturnal serenade like this was a classic and highly romantic gesture, a way to communicate a depth of feeling that could never be spoken aloud. It is the Heian equivalent of your crush showing up outside your window with a boombox. Except the boombox is a bamboo flute. The song is a heartbreakingly beautiful meditation on the transience of life, and you are strictly forbidden from actually looking at him. It is a much quieter and more complicated form of romance. Your first, overwhelming impulse is to creep to the edge of the veranda and peek through the lattice. But you crush the impulse immediately. To be seen, to be caught looking, would be an act of shocking impropriety. It would ruin you. So you simply lie still in the darkness, every part of your being focused on the beautiful, lonely sound. The music seems to speak directly to you, its melody rising and falling, a conversation without a single word. You are acutely aware that you are not the only one listening. Behind their own screens and curtains, the other ladies in waiting are also awake. They are pretending to be asleep, but you can feel their silent, intense attention. This deeply private serenade is, in fact, a very public performance. His skill as a musician is being judged. And you, as the recipient of this attention, are also being judged. A great musician in the Heian aesthetic was not one who played loudly or with flashy technique. He was one who could capture the elusive feeling of mono no aware, the beautiful, gentle sadness at the impermanence of all things. His music should harmonize with the sounds of nature, to sound like the wind in the pine trees, or the lonely cry of a deer. It's a good thing he's an excellent flute player. If he were bad, this would be a much less romantic experience. A serenade of squeaks and wrong notes would likely not have the desired effect. Skill was an essential component of courtship. Musicologists debate the extent to which the music of this period was improvised versus being based on a set repertoire of classic compositions. Was Tadanori composing a new melody on the spot, a unique song meant only for you? Or was he performing a famous piece, with his own emotional interpretation and flawless technique being the true message? The music continues for what feels like a beautiful eternity. Then a final long high note hangs in the cool night air, so pure it almost breaks your heart, and then fades into silence. He is gone. There has been no touch, no spoken words, no shared glance. But a profound and intimate communication has taken place. He has received your poem, he has approved of it, and he has answered with the music of his soul. He doesn't wait for applause. He just leaves. It is the ultimate mic drop, but with a flute. You are left alone in the now deafening silence, your heart completely melted, and you are filled with a deep, aching, and almost unbearable yearning to see the face of the man who can create such beauty. The next few days are a torment of quiet longing. The memory of the flute music from the garden haunts you, and your desire to see the face of Captain Tadanori, to connect a physical person to the beautiful poetry and the haunting melody, becomes a quiet, all-consuming obsession. But in the world of the Heian court, this is a nearly impossible wish. You are a noblewoman. Your life is lived almost entirely in the women's quarters, a world of beautiful semi-transparent prisons. You are surrounded by elegance, but you are also surrounded by paper screens, silk curtains, and bamboo blinds. You are so close to the world of the court men, yet so completely and tantalizingly separated from them. You hear their voices as they pass along the verandas on the other side of a screen. You see their shadows move against the paper walls. It is a world of near misses and maddeningly incomplete information. This is a very inefficient way to get to know someone. You can spend weeks exchanging deeply personal and elusive poetry, but you still wouldn't be able to pick the man out of a lineup of two people. It is a relationship based entirely on artistic skill and refined taste, not on something as vulgar as actually seeing each other face to face. The architecture of the palace itself is designed to facilitate this culture of glimpsing. The open-plan rooms, the movable screens, the layered curtains, they all create a world of partial views and obscured lines of sight. It is all part of a silent, flirtatious, and deeply frustrating game of hide-and-seek. Then one day, an opportunity arises. You learn from Lady Chigusa that a small, formal procession will be passing through the palace grounds, an escort for a visiting imperial envoy. The men of the court, including Captain Tadanori's division of the palace guards, will be taking part. The ladies of your household will be permitted to watch, but only from behind the heavy bamboo blinds, the misu of a screened-in veranda. The day arrives. You kneel with the other ladies in waiting in the cool dimness of the veranda, your heart pounding with anticipation. You press your face as close to the thin slats of the bamboo blind as you dare without appearing indecorous. You can smell the sun-warmed gravel of the courtyard outside. You see the procession enter the courtyard. It is a slow, silent river of color. The courtiers are dressed in their magnificent, voluminous robes of brightly colored silk. You see Captain Tadanori's unit, and then you see him. You know it is him because of the specific, elegant combination of colors on his robes, a subtle clue he had woven into his last poem to you. You cannot see him clearly. The blind obscures your view. You see only a fleeting, partial image. You see the elegant, erect posture with which he walks. You see the way he holds his ceremonial lacquered bow. You see a partial profile of his face as he turns his head for a moment. He has, you note, a very noble and well-defined jawline. Heian nobleman, Like the ladies, were deeply concerned with their appearance. The partial profile you see is of a man with a perfectly powdered white face. And, as was the height of fashion for aristocratic men, his eyebrows have been plucked, and higher, fainter brows have been painted on with charcoal just below his hairline. It was an ideal of a refined, androgynous, and highly artificial beauty. He is the very picture of a fashionable courtier. And from what little you can see, he is devastatingly handsome, in a beautiful, unknowable, and slightly startling sort of way. Social historians debate the psychological impact of this culture of non-seeing. Did it heighten romantic passion by forcing lovers to create an idealized, perfect image of each other in their minds? Or did it lead to a sense of profound alienation, where relationships were based on an aesthetic performance rather than a genuine, flawed human connection? The great novels of your era seem to suggest that it was somehow both at the same time. The procession passes. The glimpse, which lasted for no more than 10 seconds, is over. But the image is burned into your mind. The partial view, you realize, was far more powerful than seeing him fully would have been. The mystery, the incompleteness of the image, only fuels your imagination and your feelings. You now have a partial face to go with the poetry and the flute music. It's like you are slowly assembling a complete person out of a series of beautiful artistic clues. It's the most complicated and time-consuming dating profile ever. The connection between you, though still utterly silent and indirect, feels stronger now than ever. You know that the next move in this delicate, romantic chess game will come soon, and it will likely involve the exchange of another beautiful, intimate, and deeply personal object. A few days later, another message arrives. This time, it is not a poem attached to a flower branch. The attendant brings you a small, beautiful black lacquered box. Inside, resting on a bed of shimmering silk, is a hyoji, a formal court fan, made of thin, fragrant slats of cypress wood, intricately stitched together with silk threads. One side is a blank, creamy surface. The other side has been exquisitely painted. The scene is a misty, moonlit landscape, a direct and beautiful allusion to a famous poem about a secret love. And written across the painting in his elegant, confident calligraphy is a new waka, a new poem. The folding fan was a Japanese invention, and in the Heian court, it was an essential accessory for any man or woman of taste. It was used to cool oneself, of course, but that was perhaps its least important function. More critically, it was used to hide one's face from improper glances, to gesture with, and as you see now, to serve as a beautiful, intimate canvas for a romantic message. To send one's own fan to a lady was a significant gesture of favor. It was a deeply personal object. You now hold in your hand something that he has held, that has been close to him. This is a major step up from a poem on a branch. It is the Heian equivalent of being given your crush's favorite hoodie. It is an object that carries his scent, his essence. But in this case, it is an exquisite piece of art instead of a slightly worn-out piece of clothing. The principle is the same, just infinitely more elegant. The poem on the fan is more personal this time, more daring. It speaks of the frustration of seeing only a partial glimpse of you, and of his longing to know the person who writes such beautiful replies. Your heart flutters. But this gift comes with a heavy obligation. You are now expected to reply in kind. You must send him one of your own fans in return. This is a new and even more terrifying test. Your poetry and your handwriting have already been judged. Now your skill as a painter will be put on display. You spend the rest of the day in a state of creative panic. You bring out your own fans. The number of thin wooden slats in a fan was often dictated by one's rank. A high-ranking prince might have a fan of 25 slats, while a lower-ranking official might be permitted only 12. Even your accessories are governed by the strict social hierarchy. Imagine the scandal. Did you see Lady Akiko's fan? 23 slats. The sheer audacity. It is a social minefield. You choose a simple, elegant fan with the correct number of slats for your rank. You must now compose a new poem, one that cleverly answers his and you must paint a picture that complements the poem. You decide to paint a single beautiful chrysanthemum near a dew-covered garden fence, a classic symbol of autumn and enduring beauty, a subtle hint that you are willing to wait for a later season. Art historians debate the role of professional artists versus amateurs in the creation of these beautiful objects. While all courtiers were expected to be accomplished amateur painters, were the most exquisite fans decorated by the courtiers themselves, or secretly commissioned from master artists in the capital. For a personal romantic exchange like this, however, the painting would have to be your own work. It was a direct expression of your own sensibility. After many failed attempts on practice paper, you finally paint the scene on your fan and inscribe your new poem. You scent the fan with your own personal blend of incense, fold it, and place it in a simple, elegant box to be delivered back to him. This is the most elaborate and artistic courtship in history. You have exchanged poetry, music, and now custom-painted fans. By the time you ever get to have an actual conversation, you will have co-produced an entire art exhibition. A new level of intimacy has been achieved, all without ever speaking a single word. You feel more confident, more connected to this mysterious, unseen suitor. You are beginning to understand the rules of this strange, beautiful game. And it is a good thing because your aesthetic skills are about to be tested in a much more public forum. That afternoon, Lady Chigusa announces that in 2 days' time, the Imperial consort will be hosting an incense blending contest, one of the most refined and fiercely competitive pastimes of the court. The announcement of the incense contest sends a ripple of quiet, competitive excitement through the women's quarters. This is not a boisterous physical game. It is a battle of pure aesthetic sensitivity, a competition of the utmost subtlety and refinement. And for you, it is yet another opportunity to either prove your taste or to publicly display your ignorance. In the Heian court, the art of fragrance or kodo was considered one of the highest accomplishments, alongside skill in poetry and calligraphy. Incense was not just a simple air freshener. It was a language, a way to express one's personality and mood. Courtiers would spend years perfecting their own signature blends, using them to perfume their rooms, their writing paper, and most importantly, their clothing. A person's character was often judged by the elegance and complexity of their personal scent. The days leading up to the contest are filled with a quiet, focused energy. You and the other ladies-in-waiting retreat to your own curtained spaces to begin the slow, meditative work of creating your blends. The theme for the contest, announced by the Imperial consort, is a cool breeze in summer. Your task is to create a blend of aromatic ingredients that does not just smell pleasant, but that perfectly evokes the feeling of that specific poetic moment. You lay out your tools and ingredients. The materials are precious and exotic, many of them imported at great expense from the distant shores of China, India, and Southeast Asia. There are small, dark, gnarled pieces of ginkgo or agarwood, a rare and almost magically fragrant resin that is the most prized ingredient of all. There are splinters of pale, sweet byakudan or sandalwood. There are small ceramic pots containing powdered cloves, cassia, star anise, and the cool, sharp scent of camphor. This is the quietest, most serious competition you have ever witnessed. It's like a high-stakes cooking show, but with no shouting, and all the ingredients are just different kinds of expensive wood powder. The tension is palpable, but it smells amazing. Your work begins. Using a small, elegant mortar and pestle, you begin to grind the raw ingredients into fine powders. You carefully measure out tiny spoonfuls, blending them together, trying to find the perfect balance. This was a science and an art. One of the most important uses of these personal blends was to perfume the many layers of your silk robes. A lady would have a special lacquered brazier where she would light a small amount of her incense. She would then drape her robes over a large, bird-like wooden frame, allowing the fragrant smoke to rise and permeate every single layer of the silk. Your personal scent would then follow you like a ghostly signature, announcing your presence in a room before you were even seen. It was a very sophisticated form of personal branding. Captain Tadanori was probably known for his subtle yet masculine sandalwood with a hint of clove scent. Your goal is to create a scent that says, "I am a mysterious, elegant, and deeply sensitive young woman with impeccable taste in aromatic resins." Historians of scent debate how much of this practice was based on established classic recipes versus pure individual creativity. Were there well-known blends that were known to correspond to specific seasons or famous poems, which the competitors would try to replicate perfectly? Or was the highest praise reserved for a blend that was entirely new and surprising? The nature of these courtly games suggests that the greatest skill lay in a clever combination of both deep knowledge and a spark of innovation. You decide on your own blend. You will use the deep, quiet scent of agarwood as a base, but you will add to it a sharp, clean top note of camphor to evoke the coolness, and just a tiny, almost imperceptible hint of a rare, sweet floral essence to suggest the scent of a garden carried on that breeze. You test a tiny pinch of your mixture on a heated mica plate. It's not quite right. Your first attempt smells less like a cool breeze in summer, and more like a medicinal cabinet that is on fire. You sigh, discard the blend, and begin again. Perfumery is a difficult art. After many hours of careful, patient work, you finally have it. The scent is perfect. It is cool yet sweet. It is complex yet clear. You take a small amount of the precious powder and place it in a beautifully folded paper packet, which you then place in a small lacquered box. Your entry is ready. The days of preparation are over. Now you and the other ladies must present your anonymous, unseen creations to be judged by the court. The day of the incense contest arrives. The ladies of the consort's household gather in one of the main halls of the palace. The paper screens have been pushed aside to create a large open space. The mood is one of profound and silent concentration. You and the other ladies kneel in perfect, straight rows on the tatami mats, your magnificent layered robes arranged neatly around you. No one speaks. The only sound is the soft, collective rustle of silk. The head of the room, the imperial consort, your mistress, sits on a raised dais, concealed from direct view behind her elegant curtain of state. Presiding over the ceremony is a woman known as the censor master, an older lady renowned for her unparalleled knowledge of fragrances. This is not a casual game. It is a formal, ritualized art form. It is the most refined and subtle competition imaginable. There are no buzzers or timers, just a group of very serious women, waiting patiently to quietly sniff a small warm cup. It is the Olympics of smelling things. The small, anonymous paper packets containing your incense blends are collected. The censor master begins the ritual. She takes a small, elegant ceramic cup and fills it with fine white ash. Using a pair of delicate metal tongs, she lifts a piece of special odorless charcoal that has been heated in a separate brazier until it is a perfect glowing ember. She carefully buries this ember in the center of the ash. Then she places a thin, transparent mica plate over the ash, directly above the hidden heat source. She takes a tiny pinch of the powder from the first competitor's packet and places it on the mica plate. The incense is not burned directly, which would create a crude, smoky smell. Instead, it is gently heated from below, allowing it to release its complex and subtle fragrance in the purest possible way. The censer is then passed to the first lady in the first row. The process of judging is called listening to the incense, not smelling it. She lifts the cup, her movements slow and graceful. She cups her other hand over the rim to concentrate the fragrance, closes her eyes and inhales slowly, her expression serene and focused. She is not just identifying the scent. She is judging how well it evokes the poetic theme of a cool breeze in summer. She is searching for a story in the fragrance. The formal games of Kodo, or the Way of Fragrance, often involved incredibly complex rules. In some games, multiple scents would be passed around, and the participants would have to identify which ones were the same, and then perhaps link them to a classic poem or a chapter from a famous tale. It was a test of olfactory memory, literary knowledge, and pure aesthetic sensitivity. The appreciation of incense was believed to have 10 virtues, including that it sharpens the senses, purifies the mind and body, and is a companion in solitude. One of the virtues is also that even in abundance it is not overwhelming, a claim that is clearly not true of all scents. If the contest was guessed that durian fruit, the results would be very different and much, much less serene. Slowly, the censor makes its way down the rows from lady to lady. You watch their faces for any hint of their opinion, but they are all perfectly composed masks. Social historians debate the role these aesthetic games played in the power dynamics of the court. Were they just a harmless pastime for a bored and isolated aristocracy? Or were they a serious competitive arena where reputations for taste and refinement could be made or broken, and where a lady could win the favor of a powerful patron, like your mistress, with a display of superior sensitivity? Finally, it is the turn for your blend to be judged. You watch with a pounding heart as the censor master prepares your powder. The small cup begins its journey down the line. You watch as it reaches Lady Chigusa. She lifts it, listens for a long moment, and her expression does not change at all. It is excruciating. After all the blends have been judged, the censor master announces the results. The final verdict comes from the consort herself, her voice a soft, musical whisper from behind her screen. She offers a quiet, poetic critique of a few of the scents. Your blend does not win, but she does offer a single quiet comment that it possessed a refreshing clarity. You did not win, but you did not fail. You have successfully passed Advanced Scent Theory 101. You feel a wave of profound relief. The contest is over. The quiet tension in the room dissolves. Lady Chigusa, perhaps pleased by the overall display of good taste, suggests that since the theme of the day was nature, it might be pleasant to bring some of nature's visual beauty into the room as well. She declares that it is time for a lesson in another of the great courtly arts. The incense contest has left the air in the great hall thick with a dozen different, complex perfumes. To clear the senses and the air, Lady Chigusa announces, "You will now practice an art of visual, rather than olfactory beauty. You will practice the art of arranging flowers." Attendants enter, silent and graceful. They bring shallow bronze bowls, tall ceramic vases, sharp little knives, and most importantly, several large buckets filled with freshly cut branches and flowers from the palace gardens. There are slender, arching branches of willow, spiky, deep purple irises, and a few perfect, heartbreakingly beautiful camellia blossoms. The lesson begins, and you quickly learn that the Heian approach to flower arranging is nothing like simply putting a bunch of flowers in a vase to make a room look cheerful. It is a deep, philosophical, and minimalist art form. The goal, Lady Chigusa explains, her voice soft but firm, is not to overwhelm the viewer with a riot of color. The goal is to capture the essential spirit, the very life force of the plant itself. A single perfect branch of blossoming plum, chosen with care, is far more beautiful than a clumsy armful of 100 lesser blooms. This art form, which would later evolve into the great tradition of Ikebana, or the Way of Flowers, was a central part of the aesthetic life of the court. Its principles were based not on symmetry and fullness, but on asymmetry, empty space, and a deep, almost reverential appreciation for the natural line and form of the plant. It's a very different approach. The goal is not to create a big, happy bouquet. The goal is to create a profound and slightly melancholic statement about the nature of existence, using only a single twig and a sad-looking lily. It's much more intellectually demanding than just putting flowers in a vase. You are given your assignment: a shallow, dark blue ceramic bowl and a single, perfect, deep red camellia blossom on a short stem with 3 leaves. Your task is to create a pleasing arrangement. You watch the other ladies, who seem to know instinctively what to do. You remember Lady Chigusa's words about empty space being as important as the flower itself. You carefully place the camellia off-center in the bowl, its head bowed slightly, and you try to arrange the 3 leaves in a way that feels natural and balanced. This quiet indoor pastime was a reflection of a much larger cultural obsession, the seasonal viewing of flowers. In the spring, the entire court would make an excursion to a place famous for its blossoming cherry trees. These were not just picnics. They were highly refined aesthetic events where the courtiers would sit on mats, admire the beauty of the blossoms, feel a gentle poetic sadness at how quickly they would fall, and of course be expected to compose brilliant poems on the spot about the experience. Even a simple walk in the park was a high-pressure social event. You couldn't just say, "Oh, look at the pretty trees." You were expected to produce a 31-syllable masterpiece on the poignant relationship between the fleeting beauty of the blossoms and the transient nature of your own youth. It was a lot of pressure for a picnic. Art historians debate the precise aesthetic principles that governed these early Heian-era arrangements. Were they already using the symbolic, triangular heaven-man-earth structure that would define later Ikebana? Or was it a more informal and intuitive style, based purely on the individual's taste and their ability to capture the all-important feeling of mono no aware, the pathos of things? Lady Chigusa moves slowly down the line, inspecting each lady's work. She finally arrives at your small arrangement. She is silent for a long time, her head tilted as she studies your work. You hold your breath. Then, with two long, elegant fingers, she reaches out and makes one tiny, almost imperceptible adjustment. She turns a single camellia leaf just slightly, so that it now faces upwards towards the blossom, instead of outwards. And with that one tiny movement, the entire arrangement is transformed. It suddenly has life, movement, a story. You have learned another profound lesson about this world. The smallest details are everything. A single degree of difference in the angle of a leaf can be the difference between clumsiness and perfection. She has improved your work by 1,000% just by touching a single leaf. It's both inspiring and deeply intimidating. She has a black belt in flower arranging. You are, at best, a white belt with a slightly droopy flower. The lesson is complete. The hall is now decorated with dozens of these small, beautiful, and thoughtful arrangements. As the afternoon wears on, the sky outside darkens, and a soft, gentle rain begins to fall, drumming peacefully on the cypress bark roof. Another, even quieter, indoor pastime is needed to fill the rest of the day. The rain falls harder now, a steady, soothing drumbeat on the great cypress bark roof of the hall. The world outside the paper screens is a blur of wet green and misty gray. To pass the long, quiet afternoon, Lady Chigusa suggests a game. It is not a loud, boisterous game of cards or dice. It is a game of silent memory, poetic knowledge, and aesthetic judgment. It is the game of kaiways or shell matching. Attendants bring out several magnificent, black lacquered boxes, inlaid with gold and mother of pearl. They open them to reveal hundreds of clam shells, nestled in beds of raw silk. These are hamaguri shells, and they have been painstakingly prepared. Each shell has been separated into its two halves. The rough, outer surfaces have been polished smooth, and the pearlescent interiors have been exquisitely painted. The game is, on the surface, a simple one. The 360 individual half-shells are arranged and placed face down on a large silk mat on the floor. The goal is to turn over one shell, and then from the hundreds of other face-down shells, find its perfect matching half. It is the most beautiful and high-stakes memory game ever invented. It tests your memory, your knowledge of classic literature, and your ability to look graceful while kneeling on the floor for 3 hours straight. But it is far more than just a test of memory. The paintings on a matched pair of shells are not identical. They are two halves of a single artistic or literary idea. One half of a shell might be painted with the first 3 lines of a famous waka poem, and its partner will have the final 2 lines. Another pair might show 2 characters from the famous tale of Genji. You must recognize the scene and find the shell that depicts the other character from that same scene. To succeed, you must not just remember where you saw a particular shell. You must understand the art and literature of your entire culture. The game begins. The only sounds in the room are the gentle click of a shell being placed on the mat and the soft, steady drumming of the rain outside. The ladies play with a silent, focused intensity. This pastime was incredibly popular in the Heian court. A full 360-piece kaiwei set was a priceless treasure, often commissioned from the greatest artists in the capital, and was considered an essential part of a noble bride's dowry. The clam shells themselves held a deep symbolic meaning. Because the two halves of a particular clamshell are a unique pair, fitting together perfectly in a way that no other shell can, they became a powerful symbol of a faithful and perfectly matched couple. The game, therefore, was a gentle, constant metaphor for finding one's one true love in the world. Which is a nice thought, though you know that most of the marriages in your world are arranged for political reasons and have less to do with a perfect fit and more to do with which family owns the most productive rice paddies. Historians debate the social function of these quiet aesthetic games. Were they just a pleasant and cooperative way for the secluded women of the court to pass the long, empty hours? Or were they, like the incense contest, a subtle but fiercely competitive arena where ladies-in-waiting could demonstrate their superior education and refinement in front of their mistress and their peers, jockeying for favor and prestige? It is your turn. You reach out and gracefully turn over a shell. The painting on its pearlescent surface is of a noble prince in a boat, looking up at a full moon. Your mind races through all the poems and stories you have memorized. You think you know the scene. It is from the tale of the bamboo cutter. You scan the hundreds of face-down shells, a sea of polished white. You try to recall if another lady has turned over a shell showing a weeping princess on a balcony. You think so. You reach for a shell in the far corner, your heart beating a little faster, and turn it over. It is the princess on the balcony. A perfect match. A soft, almost imperceptible nod of approval comes from Lady Chigusa's direction. You have done it. Your knowledge of Chapter 14 of the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter has finally paid off in a meaningful way. You have proven you are not just the provincial girl with the questionable taste in spring-colored robes. You are a true contender in the world of competitive shell matching. The game continues as the rain falls outside, a quiet, elegant, and deeply intellectual way to spend an afternoon. You have passed another test proving your knowledge, but you are about to be reminded once again that in this world, knowing the right answer is only half the battle. The way you present your knowledge, the style, the grace, the very form of your expression, is just as, if not more, important. The rainy afternoon gives way to a quiet, lamplit evening. The shell matching game is over, the beautiful painted shells carefully put away back into their lacquered boxes. Now, a few of the ladies, including you, are engaged in a daily discipline, a practice as essential to your education as breathing. You are practicing your calligraphy. You are kneeling at a low, personal writing desk, its surface a gleaming plane of black lacquer. Before you is your writing set. A heavy inkstone, a small, elegant water dropper in the shape of a lotus leaf, a solid stick of pine soot ink, and a selection of fine-tipped brushes. You are copying a famous poem from one of the great anthologies onto a sheet of practice paper, your movements slow and deliberate. In the world of the Heian court, your handwriting was not merely a way to form words. It was considered the most direct and honest reflection of your inner soul. Your character, your breeding, your education, your emotional sensitivity, all of it was believed to be laid bare in the strokes of your brush. Beautiful, fluid, and graceful calligraphy, or shodo, was perhaps the single most admired personal accomplishment a person could possess. A woman of great beauty but with a clumsy, childish hand was considered a tragic failure. A man of high rank but with coarse, artless handwriting was seen as fundamentally unrefined. This was especially true for the women of the court. Since your face was almost always hidden from the view of men, your calligraphy, along with your poetry and your taste in colors and scents, was one of the only ways you could present yourself to the world, and particularly to a potential suitor. A man could, and often did, fall deeply in love with a woman he had never seen, based solely on the exquisite beauty of her handwriting on a note or a poem. You finish your practice poem. You have been working on this particular style for weeks, and you think it is starting to look quite good. The lines are strong. The characters are balanced. You feel a small flicker of pride. Lady Chigusa, who has been observing the junior ladies, moves silently behind you. She pauses. You hold your breath, your eyes fixed on your own work. The silence stretches. Then she speaks. Your characters have strength, Lady Akiko, she says, her voice a neutral melodic whisper. A certain provincial vitality. She pauses for a heartbeat, but they lack the delicate suggestion of melancholy, the gentle flowing sadness that is so admired in the capital. And with that one quiet, devastating critique, she moves on. Your pride instantly crumbles into dust. She has not said your handwriting is bad. She has said something far worse. She has said it is rustic, unfashionable, lacking in the deep, poignant, and beautiful sadness, the aesthetic of Mono no Aware. That is the absolute pinnacle of courtly taste. You feel a new wave of burning shame, this time directed not at your choice of robes, but at the very strokes of your own hand. So, your handwriting isn't just being graded on legibility, it's being graded on its emotional resonance. Your A's have to look appropriately sad. Your B's need a hint of transient beauty. It's a lot to ask of an alphabet. The great calligraphers of your era, men like Ono no Michikes and Fujiwara no Yukinari, were revered as artistic geniuses, the rock stars of the brush. Courtiers would treasure a single example of their writing, and their distinctive fluid styles were copied and emulated by all. Art historians debate the interplay between the formal, blocky Chinese styles and the new, more cursive and distinctly Japanese styles that developed during this period, particularly the flowing kana script used by the court ladies to write their diaries and novels. You are left staring at your own work, and now all you can see are its flaws. The lines that seem strong now just look heavy. The curves that seemed balanced now look abrupt and artless. You suddenly understand that you have been writing with your hand, but the ladies of the capital write with their entire soul. You spend the rest of the evening practicing the single character for dewdrop over and over, trying to make it look more poignantly ephemeral. It's a strange kind of homework. Most of your attempts just look like a slightly sad smudge. You feel a sense of despair. The rules of this world are so subtle, so demanding. You worry that you, a simple girl from the provinces, will never truly be able to master them. The next morning, however, brings a change. The long, gentle rain has finally stopped. The sun has come out, washing the world clean and fresh. And Lady Chigusa announces that to celebrate the return of the fine weather, the imperial consort and her ladies will be permitted a supervised walk in the great palace gardens to see the cherry blossoms, which have just burst into their full, perfect bloom after the cleansing rain. A wave of excitement ripples through the apartments. It is a chance to leave the dim, enclosed world of screens and curtains and step out into the light. The morning is bright and cool after the long rain. A thrill of genuine excitement runs through the ladies' quarters. A walk in the gardens is a rare and precious event, a brief supervised escape from the dim, enclosed world of the palace apartments. The preparations are as formal as for any other court ceremony. You and the other ladies dress in your finest spring robes, your color combinations now impeccably, anxiously correct. The procession is a slow and graceful affair. The imperial consort walks in the center, shielded from the sun by a large, elegant paper parasol held by an attendant. Her ladies-in-waiting, including you, follow in a precise order of rank. You walk along the polished, covered verandas that connect the palace buildings, and then step down into the garden itself. The garden is a masterpiece of landscape design, a perfect, idealized version of nature. There is a large, placid pond, its surface like a mirror reflecting the deep blue sky. In the center of the pond is a small forested island, connected to the shore by a beautiful, high-arched, red-lacquered bridge. Every stone, every shrub, every blade of grass seems to be in its perfect, intended place. But the glory of the garden today is the cherry trees. They are in full breathtaking bloom. After the cleansing rain, their blossoms seem impossibly white and pink against the fresh green of the new leaves. A gentle breeze stirs the branches, and a soft blizzard of petals drifts down, carpeting the immaculate green moss below like a fall of fragrant snow. You are expected to feel two things at once in this moment. The first is a deep aesthetic joy at the almost overwhelming beauty of the scene. The second is a gentle, poignant sadness, a bittersweet ache in your heart. This is the feeling of mano no aware, the pathos of things. The Heian court believed that the beauty of the cherry blossoms was so profound precisely because it was so fleeting. The blossoms would be gone in a week, a reminder of the transient, impermanent nature of all beauty, and of life itself. To feel this beautiful sadness was the mark of a truly refined and sensitive soul. It's a very complex emotional state to be in. You're supposed to be happy because the flowers are beautiful, but also sad because they're going to die. It's like going to a birthday party but spending the whole time thinking about the eventual heat death of the universe. It is a very sophisticated way to enjoy a nice day out. This competitive appreciation of nature was a core part of court life. In early summer, courtiers would go on special excursions or stay up all night just to be the first to hear the call of the hototagisu, the lesser cuckoo, and would then, of course, be expected to compose a brilliant poem about the experience immediately as you walk. You can see the other ladies are already composing poems in their heads, their lips moving silently. A brilliant poem about the falling cherry blossoms is an expected part of the day's activities. There is no relaxing on this walk. This is a high-pressure, poetry-generating excursion. You're trying to enjoy the scenery, but a little voice in the back of your head is frantically trying to find a 7-syllable word that rhymes with petals, and also conveys a sense of profound, transient melancholy. It's not easy. Historians debate how natural these magnificent gardens truly were. While designed to look and feel like nature, they were, in fact, highly artificial landscapes. The placement of every rock, the curve of every stream, the framing of every view was meticulously planned to create a series of perfect poetic scenes, like a living three-dimensional scroll painting. As your procession slowly crosses the arched bridge, you see a group of palace guards standing at attention on the far side. Among them, you see Captain Tadanori. He is staring straight ahead, his expression a mask of military discipline. But for a single fleeting, almost imperceptible second, his eyes dart to the side and meet yours. It is the most direct contact you have ever had. The scandal, the thrill. You both immediately look away, your faces burning beneath your white powder. It is the most dramatic and exciting thing that has happened to you all year. The walk is over too soon. You are led back to the apartments, your mind filled with the image of the falling petals and the memory of that one stolen glance. You are filled with the beautiful, sad feeling of mano no aware, and you think you finally have the first line for your poem. The seasons will continue to turn, and with them will come other festivals, other opportunities to test your growing understanding of this delicate, poetic world. The morning is bright and cool after the long rain. A thrill of genuine excitement runs through the ladies' quarters. A walk in the gardens is a rare and precious event, a brief supervised escape from the dim, enclosed world of the palace apartments. The preparations are as formal as for any other court ceremony. You and the other ladies dress in your finest spring robes, your color combinations now impeccably, anxiously correct. The procession is a slow and graceful affair. The imperial consort walks in the center, shielded from the sun by a large, elegant paper parasol held by an attendant. Her ladies-in-waiting, including you, follow in a precise order of rank. You walk along the polished, covered verandas that connect the palace buildings, and then step down into the garden itself. The garden is a masterpiece of landscape design, a perfect, idealized version of nature. There is a large, placid pond, its surface like a mirror reflecting the deep blue sky. In the center of the pond is a small forested island, connected to the shore by a beautiful, high-arched, red-lacquered bridge. Every stone, every shrub, every blade of grass seems to be in its perfect, intended place. But the glory of the garden today is the cherry trees. They are in full breathtaking bloom. After the cleansing rain, their blossoms seem impossibly white and pink against the fresh green of the new leaves. A gentle breeze stirs the branches, and a soft blizzard of petals drifts down, carpeting the immaculate green moss below like a fall of fragrant snow. You are expected to feel two things at once in this moment. The first is a deep aesthetic joy at the almost overwhelming beauty of the scene. The second is a gentle, poignant sadness, a bittersweet ache in your heart. This is the feeling of mano no aware, the pathos of things. The Heian court believed that the beauty of the cherry blossoms was so profound precisely because it was so fleeting. The blossoms would be gone in a week, a reminder of the transient, impermanent nature of all beauty, and of life itself. To feel this beautiful sadness was the mark of a truly refined and sensitive soul. It's a very complex emotional state to be in. You're supposed to be happy because the flowers are beautiful, but also sad because they're going to die. It's like going to a birthday party but spending the whole time thinking about the eventual heat death of the universe. It is a very sophisticated way to enjoy a nice day out. This competitive appreciation of nature was a core part of court life. In early summer, courtiers would go on special excursions or stay up all night just to be the first to hear the call of the hototagisu, the lesser cuckoo, and would then, of course, be expected to compose a brilliant poem about the experience immediately as you walk. You can see the other ladies are already composing poems in their heads, their lips moving silently. A brilliant poem about the falling cherry blossoms is an expected part of the day's activities. There is no relaxing on this walk. This is a high-pressure, poetry-generating excursion. You're trying to enjoy the scenery, but a little voice in the back of your head is frantically trying to find a 7-syllable word that rhymes with petals and also conveys a sense of profound, transient melancholy. It's not easy. Historians debate how natural these magnificent gardens truly were. While designed to look and feel like nature, they were, in fact, highly artificial landscapes. The placement of every rock, the curve of every stream, the framing of every view was meticulously planned to create a series of perfect poetic scenes, like a living three-dimensional scroll painting. As your procession slowly crosses the arched bridge, you see a group of palace guards standing at attention on the far side. Among them, you see Captain Tadanori. He is staring straight ahead, his expression a mask of military discipline. But for a single fleeting, almost imperceptible second, his eyes dart to the side and meet yours. It is the most direct contact you have ever had. The scandal, the thrill. You both immediately look away, your faces burning beneath your white powder. It is the most dramatic and exciting thing that has happened to you all year. The walk is over too soon. You are led back to the apartments, your mind filled with the image of the falling petals and the memory of that one stolen glance. You are filled with the beautiful, sad feeling of mano no aware, and you think you finally have the first line for your poem. The seasons will continue to turn, and with them will come other festivals, other opportunities to test your growing understanding of this delicate, poetic world. Summer fades into the gentle, melancholy beauty of autumn. The vibrant, almost aggressive greens of the palace gardens begin to soften, touched with the first hints of gold and crimson. The air grows cool and crisp, the nights become longer, and the sky is often a deep, clear, cloudless canvas for the moon. The autumn moon, for the people of the Heian court, was the most beautiful and poetic object in all of nature. Moon viewing parties, or tsukimi, were one of the most refined and beloved pastimes of the aristocracy. An entire evening would be dedicated to simply sitting on a veranda, sipping rice wine, and contemplating the beauty of the full moon, preferably while composing brilliant poetry about it. One such evening, the imperial consort declares an informal poetry competition. The theme, of course, is the beauty of the harvest moon. This is it. This is the ultimate test of a courtier's aesthetic sensitivity. A clumsy poem about the moon is a sign of a truly unrefined soul. But you are not the same nervous provincial girl who arrived in the spring. Months at court have sharpened your senses and deepened your understanding. You have spent countless hours practicing your calligraphy, studying the great poets, and learning the subtle language of your new world. As you kneel on the veranda, looking out at the perfect silver disk of the moon floating above the dark, still water of the garden pond, you feel not anxiety, but a quiet, calm inspiration. The other ladies are already composing, their brushes flying across scented paper. You, however, just watch. You watch the way the moonlight traces a silver path across the water. You think of the weaver princess and the cowherd, the celestial lovers from the summer festival, still separated by the river of the Milky Way. You think of Captain Tadanori, another person you know only through art and distance. And the feeling of Mono no aware, that beautiful poignant sadness at the transience of all things, fills your heart. The poem seems to write itself. It is not just about the moon's beauty, but about the pain of seeing that beauty alone, and how its reflection on the water is like a fleeting, untouchable memory of a distant lover. You have been practicing your sad handwriting for months. Your characters for Moon and Tear are now so full of elegant sorrow they could make a stone weep. You are finally ready for the big leagues of poetic melancholy. You take a sheet of pale, silvery gray paper that seems to shimmer like the moonlight itself, and with a steady hand you write your poem. Your calligraphy is no longer strong and vital. It is fluid, delicate, and imbued with the fashionable, heartbreaking melancholy so admired in the capital. The poems are collected and given to a senior lady to be read aloud. One by one she reads the verses. They are all beautiful and skillful. Then she reads yours. When she finishes, a deep, appreciative silence falls over the gathering. The other ladies are genuinely moved. Your poem has perfectly captured the profound, shared feeling of the moment. The great court lady Sei Shanagon, who lived during this era, famously wrote lists of elegant things, depressing things, and things that make one's heart beat faster. An evening like this one, filled with moonlight and perfect poetry, would certainly have made her list of elegant things. Your poem has achieved that high standard. Literary scholars see this period as a golden age for Japanese literature, precisely because of the contributions of court women like you. While official histories and government documents were written by men in formal Chinese script, the women of the court, in their secluded quarters, were creating a new, vibrant literature, diaries, poems, and novels, in the new, more fluid Japanese kana script. They were the true innovators, and their work is now considered the pinnacle of Japanese classical literature. The final judgment, as always, comes from Lady Chigusa. She has not said a word all evening. After your poem is read, you risk a quick glance at her. She is looking directly at you, and for the first time you do not see a cool, critical assessment in her eyes. You see a look of genuine, unreserved admiration. Getting a look of admiration from Lady Chigusa is like getting a perfect score at the Olympics. It is a rare and deeply treasured event. You feel like you have just won the gold medal in advanced feelings about the moon. You have done it. You have proven yourself. You have not just learned the rules of this world. You have mastered them. You have shown that you possess a soul as refined and as sensitive as any lady born in the heart of the capital. That quiet, almost imperceptible look from your stern teacher is a more profound victory than any prize could ever be. The poetry gathering ends. The ladies begin to disperse, their quiet, rustling whispers now containing a new note of respect when they speak of you, the girl from the provinces. Your poem has made an impression, but you remain kneeling on the veranda, waiting. Lady Chigusa has gestured for you to stay. She moves towards you, her own movements as graceful and deliberate as a character in a painted scroll. The other ladies melt away, giving you a rare and intimidating moment of privacy with your stern teacher. She stops before you and looks down, her face, as always, a serene and unreadable mask of white powder. And then, something remarkable happens. The corners of her mouth, which you have only ever seen set in a firm, neutral line, lift by the barest of margins. It is a tiny, almost imperceptible, but undeniably genuine smile. "Your poem tonight, Lady Akiko," she says, her voice still a quiet, formal melody, "was not just skillful. It showed true heart. You captured the very soul of Mono no Aware." She pauses, and her next words are the ones you have been longing to hear for months. "You are no longer a visitor here. You understand. You are one of us." This is the ultimate validation. And in this moment, you understand Lady Chigusa's role in your life. Her sharp critiques, her cool assessments, her devastatingly subtle corrections, they were not acts of cruelty. They were the hard, necessary lessons of a master teacher. She was not trying to break your spirit. She was forging it. She was polishing you like a rough stone, preparing you for the beautiful but ruthless social world of the court. Her teaching style is best described as character building through a series of small, soul-crushing aesthetic critiques. But it has, you must admit, been remarkably effective. The relationship between a senior lady-in-waiting and her junior charges was one of immense importance. A junior lady's successes and failures reflected directly upon her mentor. Your triumph tonight is her triumph as well. This one small private moment changes everything for you. The constant, gnawing anxiety that has been your companion since you first stepped out of the ox cart, the fear of being seen as rustic and clumsy, finally begins to dissolve. You are not just pretending anymore. You belong. It is a world of formal distance even in a moment like this. Noble women like yourself were not typically referred to by their personal names in public life. You were Akiko to your family, but here at court, you would be known by a more formal title, a name often derived from the courtly office of your father or husband. It's a bit confusing. No one uses their real name. It's like everyone is working with a cool, courtly screen name. You can call me Lady of the Wisteria Pavilion. My real name is Yoshiko, but that's far too personal for the workplace. Historians debate the true nature of female friendships at the Heian court. Were they genuine, supportive bonds, as depicted in some of the ladies' diaries? Or were they, as seems more likely in such a confined and competitive environment, fraught with hidden jealousies and constant, subtle rivalries for the favor of a powerful mistress or the attention of a desirable man? Your relationship with Lady Chigusa shows that it could be both. A source of immense stress, and a source of profound support. Later that night, as you are preparing for sleep, an attendant brings you one last message. It is a poem from Captain Tadanori, written on a beautiful dark paper meant to evoke the night sky. He has heard of your triumph at the moon viewing party. His poem is even more beautiful, more heartfelt, and more daring than his last. It seems that nothing is more attractive in the Heian period than a woman who can compose a really good, really sad poem about the moon. Your social stock has just gone way, way up. You hold his poem and you look out from your veranda at the moon, which is still bright. A feeling of deep, quiet peace settles over you. You have survived the trials of your first seasons at court. You have learned the language of colors, of scents, of flowers, of fans, and of poems. You are no longer just an apprentice in the art of courtly life. You are a practitioner. The days continue to shorten. The brilliant, clear moon of mid-autumn gives way to the cooler, crisper air of the later season. The vibrant red and gold leaves of the maple trees in the palace gardens have all fallen now, leaving the branches bare and elegant like fine ink strokes against a gray sky. This is a quiet, contemplative time at court. The major festivals of spring and summer are over. It is a time for introspection. The flower of this season is the chrysanthemum. Unlike the fragile, fleeting cherry blossom that represents the beauty of a brief, brilliant life, the chrysanthemum is admired for its hardiness. It blooms beautifully even as the first frosts begin to touch the ground. It is a symbol of endurance, of nobility, and of quiet, thoughtful longevity. You are sitting in your own small curtain space. It no longer feels like a temporary borrowed enclosure. It is your home. You are with a few of the other junior ladies in waiting, and even Lady Chigusa has joined you for a cup of warm tea. The atmosphere is no longer one of tense assessment, but of a quiet, comfortable familiarity. You look around at this world that once seemed so intimidating. You are no longer just reacting to its unwritten rules. You are a part of its fabric. You understand the subtle jokes. You can catch the veiled literary allusions in a conversation. And you can compose a fitting reply to a poem without a full day of soul-crushing anxiety. You have become fluent in the secret language of this place. A new lady-in-waiting, very young and very nervous, has just arrived at court from a distant province. Later, you see her make a small, clumsy mistake with her fan during a formal moment. You see Lady Chigusa give the new girl the exact same cool, devastatingly neutral look that you once received. And you feel a sudden, unexpected pang of deep sympathy. You want to go to her later and whisper, "Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it." And as a piece of friendly advice, avoid the willow color combination until at least May. Your own list of things that give a clean feeling, like the lists of the great lady Seishanagon, would now include the quiet satisfaction of successfully navigating an entire day without committing a single mortifying breach of etiquette. It is a very clean, very satisfying feeling indeed. Historians debate the reasons for the eventual end of this beautiful, refined Heian world. Was it the slow, inevitable rise of the provincial warrior class, the samurai, who lived by a code of rustic simplicity and martial valor and had little patience for the aesthetic games of the capital? Or was the court's own decadent, inward-looking culture the cause of its own gradual slide into political irrelevance? This quiet, perfect afternoon is a moment at the peak of that beautiful, but ultimately fragile civilization. You receive another message from Captain Tadanori. It is a poem about the beauty of the first frost on a chrysanthemum petal. It is, as always, exquisite, but your correspondence has changed. It feels less like a series of high-stakes tests and more like a comfortable, ongoing conversation. The game of courtship is slowly, quietly, maturing into a genuine connection. You look at a single perfect white chrysanthemum that one of the ladies has placed in a simple bronze vase, and you feel that familiar, profound, and now almost comforting feeling of mono no aware. The beautiful sad awareness that this perfect, quiet, elegant moment, like the flower, like the season, is a transient and precious thing that will not last forever. But for now it is your world. You have found your place. You are a sophisticated lady of the Heian court. Your handwriting is appropriately melancholic, your taste in incense is impeccable, and you can tell the season just by looking at the color of a single silk sleeve. You have made it, and as you sit there, in the quiet chrysanthemum-scented air of the late autumn afternoon, our story of your year at court comes to its gentle end. The memory of the rustling silk, the scent of the plum blossom poem, the sound of the unseen flute in the night, and the gentle, sad beauty of the falling cherry petals. All of these can now soften and fade, like a watercolor painting in a soft rain. The anxieties and the triumphs, the whispers behind the screens, the quiet click of the matched shells, the moonlight on the garden pond, they can all drift away now. Kiko is at peace. She has found her home. The palace is quiet, and you can let the story go and rest.